Hello and welcome to this episode of the Spiced Podcast. My name is Jacob and I'm your host and resident Star Wars addict. Feels like the first time and honestly forever that I've done one of these, a full-length normal podcast between taking the LSAT a week ago now. And all that goes into that. I've been pretty busy and took a little time off, and even then, like the last episode I recorded before that was so short that it feels like it's been like probably 2 months since I've recorded a full-length podcast, but I am back. And today we'll be talking about, of course, a lot of Star Wars news. We have a lot to cover there. And Star Wars Squadrons, the campaign, as well as the short story they released alongside it a couple days ago. So for news, we have so much to talk about. We have panels from New York Comic Con. We have the new Empire Strikes Back from a Certain Point of View announcements. I've personally got a lot of new Star Wars things in the past, like 2 weeks alone. I was able to get the Luke and Leia Jedi pops from New York Comic Con. Those will be in the mail pretty soon. I was able to get the new Galaxy's Edge version of Myths and Fables, so I haven't actually read that yet, so I'll probably be doing a review on that full 12-story edition coming pretty soon. I got, oh my god, so many things. A Jedi You Will Be, a young children's book by Preeti Chabir. I got that. I don't think I'm going to do a podcast on that because it's just like a 20-30 page kids book, but I'll probably write a little review up on the spicedin.com for it. I also got the Captain Cardinal Black series. I want to say that's it, but I honestly don't know. It's been a little crazy the past couple weeks. So into the actual news stuff. From a Certain Point of View, Empire Strikes Back, we got the full story reveals, all 40 of them, and all 40 authors and everything. It seems very exciting. I will definitely be picking that up when it comes out, despite I still have not read the first one. If it's anything like the first one, from what I've heard, it'll probably be, some stories will be good, some stories will be great, and some not so much, but that's okay. So hopefully, it seems like we'll have some pretty cool things. I got some of my favorite most desired stories, one of them being the Dak Ralter story. I was really hoping we were going to get one of those, and they came through. So if you want a full breakdown of all the announcements, you can check out thespicedin.com. I have an article up with every single story, all the authors, and all of the subjects of the stories, as well as a top 5 most anticipated stories. So you can check that out on there. And if you, so one thing, I don't think I've really talked about it, is in my reviews and my articles that like specifically discuss a book, from a certain point of view, or let's say my Master and Apprentice review, if on all of those pages there will be like an Amazon link. If you, read my article or my review and you think you want to pick that book up, I'd appreciate it you using that Amazon link. It's an affiliate code that will give me a little kickback. It still costs the same to you, and it'll help me cover my my website fees, which would be great. So, yeah, we got that going on. And then we also had 2 panels with New York Comic Con. The first one, well, I'll actually go in reverse order. There's like 4 panels, but I only really looked over the 2 I found most interesting. I'll go in reverse order, actually. So there was just a general Lucasfilm publishing panel. It's hosted by Kristen Baver, who is the host of This Week in Star Wars. And then there's also authors Preeti Chabir, Zoraida Cordova, Amy Ratcliffe, Daniel Jose Older, Katie Cook, and Phil Stozak. Phil's actually, he's not a writer. He works with the Lucasfilm art department and does a lot of the like art of The Rise of Skywalker, art of the Mandalorian books. So it was really cool. There's not a whole lot super interesting or super new that we learned in here. Preeti and Zoraida talked a little about their work on Clone Wars Story of Light and Dark. We learned a little, there's a lot of these authors wrote on from a certain point of view, so some of the authors talked about their chapters. We didn't learn a whole lot. People were saying, "Oh, I'm super." The whole panel was really like authors saying over and over again, "I'm really excited to write this book." So one of the more interesting things that came out of the From a Certain Point of View part of the discussion was Katie Cook. She's doing a comic, So everyone else is doing short stories as far as where we are, but she did a little comic. She's an illustrator as well. And it's a comic of R2-D2 and the Dragon Snake on Endor. So I thought that was kind of unique and interesting. And then also Daniel Jose Older, he wrote Last Shot, which was kind of a tie-in novel for Solo. And he said that his story with Zuckuss and 4-LOM ties into that in a way. It takes place in a diner that was in the book, and there's some crossover characters. So there's that as well. They also talked about the Art of the Mandalorian that Phil's doing. He talked about a lot about his like day-to-day work at Lucasfilm, but he talked more about the book and how it's interesting that it's the same length as like the Art of the sequel movie books, but it's 5.5 hours or whatever of television. So there's a lot he had to cram in there. But one thing he really wanted to make sure he covered was the journey that Filoni and Favreau took to make the book. Or not make the book, make the series. So a lot of what they went through of the ideation phase and coming up with the whole story of The Mandalorian. Amy talked about her Art of Galaxy's Edge book, and she was super excited to work with Imagineering, as, I feel like anyone would be. And then they announced a few new young children's books by Katie Cook, like young. We're talking like 4, 5, 6-year-old books, so I'm not really going to go into those. They talked about Preeti and a Jedi You Will Be, which, I mentioned I have now and I will be reading pretty soon. And then they talked about Daniel Jose Older and he's writing for the High Republic Adventures, which is kind of the younger, kid-focused Star Wars comic book. So, yeah, that was most of it. There really wasn't a whole lot that came out of that panel. But the next panel, which is way more important, is the overall High Republic panel. So that was moderated by Susanna Polo and had authors Claudia Gray, Charles Sewell, Justina Ireland, Daniel Jose Older, Kevin Scott, and Lucasfilm, I think he was like a publishing exec, Michael Siglane. So they start off talking about the Great Disaster, which is the inciting event for the whole publishing line. If you remember the chapter they released of Light of the Jedi, couple months back, it's that event in there. The big, freighter crashes into something in hyperspace and sends all of the contents of the freighter spread throughout the Outer Rim. That's the Great Disaster. So this happens at the very beginning of the story, and it's called the ship's called the Legacy Run, and that kind of sparks the whole High Republic series of events. And in response to this disaster, the Jedi are called to help and help come to the aid of the galaxy at large. We talked about Yoda a little bit because we found out, I think last month, that he would be in the High Republic, and Daniel Jose Older will be writing him in High Republic Adventures. So he's currently working with younglings and Padawans, and we first see him a little bit after the Great Disaster. They said that there would be the Great Disaster and then a few subsequent events, and then Yoda comes into the story. We also talked about The Test of Courage, which is the junior reader novel, I believe, from Justina Ireland. And she said that her main character in that book is a young girl who became a Padawan, I think at the age of 16. Was talking about just how much she loved the Order and was just like a diehard, super passionate go-getter type. I'm kind of skipping around. Some was more interesting than others. Kevin talked a little bit about Keeve Trinnis, who is the main character of the comic book line. She is a brand new Jedi posted on Starlight Beacon, and obviously has to help react to the whole situation of the Great Disaster. The interesting thing was Phil Noto, who's one of the artists, I think he's a cover artist for the comic book line, designed her really early on, before the High Republic was even the High Republic, back when it was still just Project Luminous. So her design has been one of the things that's been around for the longest during this whole process. Something super interesting was they all discussed how different Jedi perceived the Force in different ways. So each author kind of took one of their main characters and talked about it a little bit. So Charles Sewell, with the Light of the Jedi, he talked about Avar Kriss, who she sees it all as music. She sees the Force as music, and everyone plays their own part, and all harmonized together to create the Force. Buriaga the Wookiee sees the Force as a great forest. Justina Ireland said Vernestra sees it as herself as a small tributary flowing into a larger river that is the Force. Kiev Trinus sees the Force as a tapestry that spreads throughout the galaxy, full of small individual threads, but she has currently not found her own thread in this work of art. Lula sees the deep philosophical side of the Force as well as the combat part. She wants to be the best and thus sees the Force as a mountaintop to summit. Reith he is personally not super strong in the Force and must work harder to maintain that connection. So he could see the Force more as like a spider web. It can be both strong and delicate, and sometimes can be hard to see. I thought this was like super interesting that they all had their own interpretations of kind of like what is really sort of a religious, metaphysical, thing. And it reminds me of just like how all these there's so many other interpretations of the Force depending on your culture. The Jedi see it as the Force, and then all these characters have their own individualized interpretation of what that is, but you have different cultures seeing it as the magic, third sight, the great presence. There's like all these other different interpretations depending on your background in the galaxy. So I thought that was very interesting. And they were asked to talk about their favorite non-Jedi character. Michael Siglane, he didn't say much. He just said there's a character called Geode from Into the Dark. He just said to watch out for that. Daniel Jose Older said to look at Cham Cham, which is like a bat / scorpion / pig looking kind of pet. He said it was basically everyone's Tia's chihuahua. So like a little devil that's sweet but also crazy. That is Cham Cham. Claudia Garay said Leox Jossi, who's a pilot scoundrel type character. Not quite the Han Solo archetype. She said think early Matthew McConaughey with a spaceship. So if I don't get a lot of all right, then I'm going to be kind of disappointed in her. So then we got that. There's Kevin Scott brought up two Jedi. He's, the question was not about Jedi, but two Jedi, Sarek and Tarek, who are other Jedi. They're Jedi twins. And they're so heavily linked through the Force and through each other. They often act as one, finishing each other's sentences and stuff like that. So it's kind of giving me Legends Jania Jason vibes. I think that's really cool, and I think there's a lot that he could explore with that. I don't know if you're gonna get full on like battle meditation mind melds or anything like that, but there's some cool stuff that could be happening there. So then Charles Sewell was last up, and I thought this part was very interesting. He talked about a creature on Elfrona called a Charlhound. It's named Ember. It's a dog type creature that looks kind of like a burned down campfire, so it has like ember kind of look and coloration across her. And she's a stray, befriended by the main characters of Light of the Jedi. So the reason this is so interesting, like I don't really care about the dog that much, but Elfrona is a big deal. That's a planet mentioned in The Rise of Kylo Ren. It's a big part of that 4-issue comic book series. And it was a High Republic outpost that he and Luke and Lor San Tekka visit, and it's a very instrumental place. And this was the first time we ever heard the phrase "the High Republic." It came out back in like December, January-ish. I think this issue would have come out. I think that it was first mentioned in issue 2, which I think was in like December. So that was the first time we ever heard of the High Republic. It had been hinted at before then, but this is the first time it was named as the High Republic. So to see it come full circle like that is pretty crazy. Like we'll probably see that exact outpost. Well, it's a novel, so we don't see it. But we'll at least probably visit that exact outpost in this book, which is pretty crazy. So then they all took a chance to talk about some lightsabers, since these are like the Jedi Knights of the Round Table. They're all going to have some pretty cool lightsabers. Buri Yaga, for instance, he said he needed something much stronger than a typical lightsaber blade. He might like accidentally crush a hilt if that wasn't the case. So he has a large like two-handed greatsword hilt made of many materials that are meaningful to him, which just makes me think of Gunji. God bless Gunji. Vernestra has a very special mod to her lightsaber that we cannot know yet. We know it's purple, but there's something interesting and unique that we're not allowed to know yet. It's still being kept under wraps, so that's kind of cool to look forward to. Keith Trennis is a bit of an overachiever and made a double-bladed lightsaber, but not only is it a standard double-bladed lightsaber, but it's a Cal Kestis type where she can split it into 2 single blades or 1 double blade. And then also she apparently stores it on like a bandolier type strap on her chest. And then Reeve, he personally is not someone that goes quick to lightsaber dueling. He is a combat is a last resort kind of person, but he doesn't hesitate if needed. So not a whole lot about his lightsaber, but a little bit more about his personality. So, and then the end, like the last question wasn't really much, but it kind of led to a lot of things. So the moderator asked if there's any significance to like gold hilted lightsabers, and Michael Siglane hopped in and said basically no. It's just, it's kind of a style. It's to reflect the fact this is the golden age of the Jedi. That, there's just gold used. It's not so much a significance, whether that's like economical or functional or cultural. Well, I guess it is more cultural. It's just like the reflection of the times. But then he kind of just kept talking for a while, which is where a lot of interesting things came up. So he's saying basically there's a lot of teases throughout the Star Wars media in the past year or so that led to this. Obviously, I just talked about the rise of Kylo Ren. The High Republic was mentioned in the Star Wars issue 6 comic book that came out a couple weeks ago. It's been kind of teased here and there throughout the whole Star Wars publishing line for a while. But he said there was one in a recent book that came out that has not been caught yet by the fandom at large. So it could be Thrawn, it could be Poe Dameron even, it could be I don't know, Queen's Shadow, maybe not Shadow, Queen's Peril, maybe. Clone Wars Story of Light and Dark. That's a bit of a stretch, but it's possible. There's quite a few books that have come out recently. It could have been a comic. Like it's probably a comic, honestly. So there's a lot going on there, and there's one specific tease we have not caught yet. Then they announced the next wave of High Republic. So currently we have Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, which is the adult novel. We have Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, the YA novel, and Test of Courage, I believe, which is the Justine Ireland junior reader novel. So they didn't give titles, but they did give the next 3 authors and their assignments. Justina will write the next YA, Cabin will write the next adult novel, and Daniel Jose Older will write the next middle grade novel, and these will all be coming out summer 2021. So we're basically going to have 3 books in January, 3 books in like June, plus all of the comic books that are going to be running throughout that. So there's going to be a lot of High Republic stuff to cover between now and then. And then the one last little tidbit they dropped is there's the Star Wars Insider monthly magazine. For a while, it had original short fiction, and it has not had that in quite a bit. So that is actually coming back in December. It will be relaunching the Star Wars Insider short stories with a High Republic story from Charles Soule. So that'll be coming the month, probably a couple weeks before the Light of the Jedi novel drops. So I'm going to probably try and read that and review it. So there's a lot going on with the High Republic. If you want to know more about it, you're just going to stay here. I will talk about it sooner rather than later. So that's all the news, I think. Holy cow, that was a lot. It's going to be probably more than the actual quote-unquote content part of this podcast. But anyways, next up we have the Star Wars Squadrons. So let's just go right into that. So I'll talk a little bit about just my experience with the game, then kind of the campaign story, and then we'll wrap it up with the short story that came out this week. I've been having a ton of fun with this. I've been playing a lot of it on Twitch, so if you want to go check me out, I think it's just the Spice Den on Twitch. Let me double check that. I'm just twitch.tv/the Spice Den. I'm playing Squadrons a lot in VR, and it is so much fun. So if you want to come just chill with me and talk about the game, heck, I'll probably, if you listen to this anytime soon, you can probably just play with me. I don't even care. Just hit me up. I've been having a lot of fun with it, but yeah, so it's been a great game, playing a lot of multiplayer. I suck at fleet battles, but I feel like I'm really good at dogfighting. I completed the campaign basically in a day, and I played all that in VR with a HOTAS as well, and it's super immersive, and the story I don't think was anything super special. I like the gameplay was really what I was there for. Between missions, you had the opportunity to talk with all your companions, and I basically I did it for the first couple times, and it got to the point where it's they're gonna talk to me for 30 to 45 seconds. None of it's gonna be that consequential. I don't really care. I'm skipping it. So I did skip it for the most part, which I guess is more positive in regards to the game than it is negative in regards to the story. But generally speaking, the story is you are a new pilot in both the New Republic and the Empire. After the Battle of Endor, the New Republic is trying to usher in the Starhawk project, which is a huge part of the Aftermath trilogy, and the Empire is trying to destroy it. So you kind of just go back and forth, play as those two factions to complete those goals. The New Republic, you have to commandeer a Star Destroyer and scrap it up for parts to make it into the Starhawk. The Empire's trying to stop you, and at any cost, because not only are you trying to stop the project, as ordered by Ray Sloan, your captain of your Star Destroyer also has a personal vendetta, because the main leader of the New Republic is a defector. He was like her mentor in the Empire, and he defected over. So yeah, that's kind of the driving forces. The Starhawk ends up being destroyed, and then the New Republic, in order to save the project and defeat the Empire, drag it into a broken moon, and the resulting shockwave destroys all the Imperial ships around them. So it's kind of cool. There's a lot of just cool, neat, little interesting tidbits from it. Like you see Hera, which is awesome. You see Wedge very shortly, but it was cool nonetheless. He was there, and he mentioned a Rogue Squadron. It's I don't know. It's weird. There's so many stories that take place in this timeline between Endor and Jakku. Like so many. You have the Aftermath trilogy. You have the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. You have the Battlefront 2 campaign. You have this campaign. You have comic books. I'm pretty sure. Like there's so much. Like there's so many stories that take place in this year and a half long timeline. It is kind of ridiculous. So I didn't really know if I needed a story here, but it works. It's really just, you play through the campaign, you have fun, and then it just sets you up for the multiplayer, which is the main part of this game. So I guess in a way, I can't be too upset about it. The short story was kind of cool. It's about two of the main pilots for the New Republic, Keo and Frisk. Keo is a Marulian, Frisk being a Trandoshan, and it's just kind of like a little side mission they do before the events of the campaign. They have to go pick up some intel, and of course things go wrong. They they encounter some Imperial pushback, and have to pull off some fancy flying in order to save the day. It's a cool little story. I enjoyed it. It's like a 10-15 minute read maybe, and it's just posted on EA's website, so that's cool. And one of the biggest, most interesting thing that came out of it was it recanonized the Killik, which are a very, very important legend species. It's an insectoid species, and the main focus of the Dark Nest trilogy. So those they exist. We didn't actually encounter them, but one of our main characters uses some turn of phrase as crazy as a Killik nest or something like that at the end of the story. So we don't actually see them, but we know they exist out there somewhere now, which is pretty cool. So yeah, overall, Star Wars Squadron is fun, just not for the story reasons. It's okay. It's the story's cool, but nothing revolutionary. Not the stakes never seem that crazy high or anything. So yeah, that's that. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Let me know what you think. I'm right now, if you want to catch up with me in more ways, I'm at SpicedInPod on Twitter and Instagram. Like I said earlier, you can check me out at twitch.tv/TheSpicedIn. You can watch me play Squadrons there. And, check out some articles I have on the website. I'll hopefully be having a Jedi You Will Be little review up or something like that. And then my goal is to try to finish Queen's Peril for the episode next week, and we'll go from there. So thanks for listening, and thanks as always to Graham Bull for providing the music, and may the Force be with you.